let's talk about. I mean, I'm down. I'm down for some transitioning. We all got to transition, evolve as people. Transition to the next stage. No,
Nah, nope.
nah.
We're all never going to evolve. Humans don't evolve.
Yeah, I mean, evolution happens on a longer time scale, so we don't even have enough time to evolve.
What? Go ahead.
Oh, and then second, I was just thinking like transition. Why do we have to transition? Why can't we just stay the same?
Because
how do we got to grow somehow, right?
Grow, but I guess I was kind of thinking it from like the Black perspective. We have to transition to fit in and stuff like that, and that.
Nah. No. As humans, we should transition with the Earth because
right,
it's gonna take us or not.
I honestly I think as humans we evolve faster than what we think. And stick with me here. Think about how we were hunter gatherers at first, and then technology came around, and then we started to I think it's not a physical evolution, it's a mental evolution. Our brains are mentally evolving.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I feel like we still, the mentality, the thought process of things happening, we still, I think all the transition of society has changed so fast, but we as humans have not evolved past those basic instincts of hunter-gatherer. That's why we still have these flight or flight responses, which are still physical, but
Yeah.
I mean,
or even us thinking I think I might have talked about me having anxiety, these things where your body is built, so we're not built for this this sedentary lifestyle or things like that. So then we're having all these issues because we're built to walk more and not drive everywhere, or just your brain always being on constant alert, and then you don't have a sense of danger, and then you don't know what to do with that energy. And
actually, yeah, I would agree with you. As physically, I don't think humans have evolved anywhere near as much as we that far off from the predecessors of hunter gatherers, but socially and societally, things are trying to really push forward, or just into things that we aren't ready for.
We're not ready for it.
Yeah.
I mean, but I still think it's a type of evolution.
Yeah.
It's a type of you. We're not the same people. Or also, we're not the same. People back in the day were shorter. We're not the same people that we are today.
But they were shorter because they didn't have enough nutrients in their childhood to fulfill their capacity.
Okay, and then so we started to get more nutrients, and guess what? We evolved to become taller and bigger.
That's not evolution. That's plasticity. That's not necessarily evolution, because if we were to go back to those restricted diets, we would still be shorter. We would still have evolution is something that's literally no matter. Yeah.
If we went back to those restricted diets, wouldn't we die off? And that makes that, would that be evolution, or is that not
us dying off?
If we went back to restricted diet, like let's say there was a lack of food or whatnot, we might have children just wouldn't grow as tall as they would, because they don't have excess nutrients or the optimum nutrition or whatnot. I would say we're probably in overload, but I think we're still in, because we're probably we're as a country, as a race taller. And that's just certain countries, but we can still see that people are shorter in even different parts of the US that are impoverished, or other countries. So I don't think there's been a long enough time for us to actually evolve into being taller. So
I guess.
Apparently I know more about evolution. I don't like I like me.
You do. You do.
You do.
When I say
myself,
well, this is the thing. Just because you like it, just because you don't like it doesn't mean you don't have to know it. But me, when I took evolution, I'm like, this shit is boring as fuck. I don't know the answers, but I don't care about it. I had to take, when I was doing my master's, the first day of class, when we were in master's program, we had to take evolutionary genetics. And I don't so much care for evolution or genetics. And they were like, why are you taking this class? And I'm like, because it's required, a part of the curriculum. And then I got the second highest score in the class. And my professor was like, I thought you didn't like this class. And I was like, well, just because I don't like it doesn't mean I'm not gonna get an A. And then the second test, he hovered around me for the exam to make sure I wasn't cheating.
Jesus.
And then the third one, because I had this method of making a study guide or whatnot. And his exams were just short answer, long answer, or whatnot. So I would make the way that I make study guides is I'll go through the PowerPoints and I'll create questions based on the PowerPoints. And then I practice answering them. So I had this long, 20, 30 page document of questions. And so me and one of my classmates were studying and we couldn't figure out what the answer to this question was. So we went to his office hours to ask him. And he's looking through all of my study guides. She's like, what's this? He's like, I don't ask questions like this. I was like, your questions are 3 or 4 of these put together. And he's like, I was like, this is how I pass you. Yeah, I'm like, what?
He was not prepared.
Right.
to see
So
how
I wasn't ready for that. Oh man. So should
but
we
it's you just break it down into smaller components and then you can figure it out.
That's smart.
I mean, that's what I do with my students. They don't realize that's how I teach them. We do the small things and then they get questions that are just we expand and make it bigger. It's like scaffolding.
Nice. You're a good professor. Better than me.
I also have a graduate minor in college teaching, so
well, there's that.
Yep.
You have an MBA and a graduate minor in teaching. Nice. Wait, did you get
nice.
Like the PhD in biochem? She's like, oh, also the MBA, also the minor in teaching. Like, girl.
I don't have a PhD in biochem. That's Dominique. I have a PhD in ecology, evolution, and conservation biology.
You don't like whatever.
Whatever.
You don't like 1/3 of them. You don't like 1/3 of them.
You don't like 1/3 of your PhD.
Oh well, you got many other credentials.
You're good. All right. Let's talk about transition. What?
I didn't catch that.
I said you have many other credentials. What? I didn't say anything else after that.
No. When I said ecology, evolution, and conservation biology, I mean that's the whole degree name.
Yeah, I thought you ain't like. You say you ain't like evolution.
But that's okay. I got into that program because it was the conservation biology part.
Okay.
It doesn't. I didn't do anything with evolution in my dissertation.
Okay.
You don't get to choose your degree name.
This is true.
Yeah, because right now, all my students, they'll have a degree in natural, they'll get their master's or their PhD in natural resources. And then they choose the emphasis area. So it could be either fisheries and wildlife, human dimensions, parks and rec, or soil sciences. Because we just have we have a division and then just different emphasis area, but their degree is just usually the degree is the name of the department or the program. And my program was PEAK. Yeah,
that makes sense. All right, let's talk about transitions.
But first we have to transition with the whatever. I don't know. It was whatever the thing is the sign always kind of shakes or something or
the
logo?
Intro?
Yeah.
The intro. Get into the drop.
Drop. That's what it is. The drop.
Of the transition. We're gonna transition into the drop. Don't worry about it. So, welcome back to another episode of At the Bench. I am your host, Dr. Dominique, and we have Dr. Samnika, and we got Kojo. Soon to be doctor.
Doctor in training.
Doctor in training. Okay.
No,
doctor.
I don't want it.
You don't want it?
No, I don't want it. You can. When I'm a doctor, I'll get it.
Yeah. I don't even want it anymore. It's fine. Oh man. So this is going to be our second to last episode of this season because summer's coming up, and we want to have a hot girl and a hot boy summer. All right, we want,
Vacation.
right, we want to be out here, out here in these streets, all vaccinated and shit.
Oh, we gonna finish this right before my birthday.
Boom! Look at
Ooh.
I
that.
got a new swimsuit though. About to have a pool party for my birthday.
Ooh, hot girl summer. Hey, out
Yeah,
here.
I need plans.
I need plans.
Make plans.
Right. It's like, yo, shit, what am I doing?
Like everybody invited is vaccinated,
Hey, yeah, you know what? Everybody get vaccinated,
and we're gonna be
please.
outside. Yep.
Please get vaccinated so we can be outside. I mean, well, I'm vaccinated and I'm outside, but everybody else, please get vaccinated. Like, come on now, do better. Do better out here. I mean, I've been out here trying to convince my family, and it's hard. My mama's vaccinated. My one of my nephews is. My sister-in-law. For some reason, my dad and my brothers. Yeah, it's just been hard. I don't understand, but it's
Yeah.
all good. It's all good.
None of my family invited to my pool party.
It's okay, and that's okay.
Well, it's done.
Y'all not invited. Fuck this.
Y'all didn't get vaccinated, and it's too late now to be even fully vaccinated. Even if you
Right.
even if they got their first shot yesterday, they
Mm-mm.
still couldn't make it in time.
That's rough. That's rough for them. They're gonna miss out.
But it's great for you because your party's gonna be great.
This is gonna be lit.
Whatever I want.
Woo! All right, man. Listen now. So it's and you know what? Speaking of summertime, this is usually the time. It's time to transition into a new, say a new program, a new school, a new. You're going from undergrad to grad school to postdoc. Usually with a postdoc to a professor, like you know, you can transition anytime during the year. But
Or grad school to professor.
be great.
Skip the whole postdoc
Oh, I mean,
stage.
grad school. Okay, we're all not as amazing as you. Okay, we all can't transition from to
So-
professor.
Man, we just can't. We can't forget that.
Okay, we
percentage.
won't. You know what? We won't
Right.
forget the transition from grad school to professor. Okay, we won't forget it. We won't forget it.
Yeah, some
And you
people
know,
got to
this
get
is-
postdocs to get jobs.
Right. It was like, come on, man. Like we ain't all out here like you. Shoot,
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I'm inspired.
Be like you one day, shit. Oh, but yeah, man. So I mean, it's an exciting time for a lot of people. Some might say a stressful time because you know you might be moving away from home. You might be going across the country, new school, new people, a whole new place. You might not even know any people in that place. I know all about that, but I guess we'll start off with the transition from undergrad to grad school, and we'll start off with you, Kojo. We haven't heard from you in a while. Well, how was your transition from undergrad to grad school?
I had a nice, honestly, my transition was kind of nice because I graduated in the winter of 2018 and then I started my program in the fall of 2019. So I had a full like semester where I could work and save money, stay just like living at home and just like make sure I was ready to transition and move across the country and just like make sure I had everything like at home set before I like literally moved myself my entire life. And so I had a lot of time to prepare for it and I really value that.
Yeah.
I moved over in July. And honestly, I just shipped everything in like a big box and just waited for it when I got here. And the transition from Maryland to California was, I mean, two completely different areas. Obviously, this area is very much more, well, it's just more California, honestly. It's just more West Coast than anything. But just as long as I was keeping it open, I like a lot of new grad students were available. So it was nice to actually have people to come together, say, hey, we're all from these different places. Let's try and commune a little bit and get through this program as much as we can.
Yeah.
But then that was 2019. And then I had 1 year of actual grad school and then COVID hit. So making my transition from undergrad like a little weird because it was just like all classes for my first year from like just grad school, just like straight my 9 to 5 classes. That's like I did as an undergrad. But then when COVID hit, I didn't have any classes. I was just starting to go into what I thought grad school was going to be, just like doing research constantly, just going in, only having meetings, only going to research meetings, and only like doing things that had to do with like projects and moving forward on that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the biggest transition that I had was just telling myself to, I guess, stop looking for other people to give me the answers. Because in like at that transition of classes, it was like at the end of the day, you could always go to your professor and ask questions that they'll give concrete answers to. But then in research, your professor can give you as much as an answer as they can, but maybe it's not as concrete, and maybe you can't go off of it as much as you could like an answer before. So it does take that little bit more of like, just like a little bit of intuition, a little bit of creativity, and just like being flexible going in meetings, knowing that maybe you're not always going to get a perfect answer, but you can still do work after that.
Yeah, that's dope. Did you drive from Maryland to Cali?
I wanted to, but no, I didn't. I did a very interesting thing where I shipped all my clothes and my like house items in a box, but then I like shipped my car on like a trailer.
Yeah. My little sister did that too. Man, I want to
Yeah.
do a cross. Well, technically, I did a cross country road trip.
Honestly, I didn't get to. I
Like,
wanted to do that. Huh?
I was just wondering, did you put stuff in your car, like your trunk?
Yeah. I had a lot of stuff.
I was like, you could have, instead of like shipping the whole thing, like you could have like.
No. I was literally at like UPS with like, hey, can I have a really big box for my entire life? and then I also shipped my car filled with stuff.
Really big box. It was like, sure.
Oh, we can give you a few boxes.
right. We got something in the back for you. You know what I mean? Hey, get that life box. Yeah, the one. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So, what did you get your undergrad in? Is it the same as what you were doing your?
It was chemical engineering, and I got a minor in biology, and now I'm doing chemical engineering / like biomolecular engineering.
Okay. So there wasn't much difference between, like, say, the type of classes or the type of things that you had to learn from undergrad to grad school.
In terms of classes, no, it was just like I took thermodynamics as an undergrad, I took thermo as a grad student. But for my research, I guess this is just how I expect all research to be, but I was in a wet lab for all of my undergrad doing things with immunology, a lot of flow cytometry and imaging, and like fluorescent imaging.
Good stuff.
But then when I switched over into my grad school, I had one rotation in a wet lab, and then I completely switched over to computational. Because honestly, when I was throughout all my classwork and like in my research, I would always be looking for like, how can I use a computer to make this easier for myself? But then in wet lab, I always would just run into, he's like, you just got to do an experiment a bunch of times. I'm like, I can't do that for 5 years.
And y'all talking about my degrees. Y'all got biochemistry, chemical engineering, with a minor in biology. Shit, make me feel bad. Like, look.
Girl, you have an MBA.
Right, like, she was like, oh, trying to make me feel bad. Like, go somewhere.
I just got a bachelor's degree in biology, a master's in biology.
And now you're the professor.
Right. And now you're the
because I'm also older though. I got my degree, my undergrad in 2011. You got 2018. There's time when you get to my stage, you're gonna be same where you probably gonna be there before me because you didn't do a master's. I did a master's, so you straight into PhD.
That's fair. I guess that's something that I'm dealing with now. Like I'm at the end of my second year of my program, so I finished all my classes. I finished my prelim, so technically at this stage I have a master's. So now I'm like,
make those quals.
Yeah, I have to get to my qual either maybe later this year, but preferably next year.
Yeah.
It's really weird because depending on which program, sometimes the quals are before the so what you call your prelims, other people call their quals. To do that if you don't have a master's that stage. And then sometimes it's switch, and then sometimes you just do one. You just do your prelims. There is no quals. Depending, like in biology, and like in ecology, we just do prelims.
And there's so many quals.
And is your prelim like when you propose your thesis?
Pretty much.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, no. So it's so the first half is general knowledge, and then the second half is proposing your thesis. So for me, we did ours in they want you to do it in your 5th semester. So at the beginning of your 3rd year.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Even though you should have been working on your project since your 1st year, but yeah. So you do your prelims and you already have like you already have like data, and you probably will already have your questions set, because usually you get your committee formed by your 1st year. So it's like when you get to that 3rd year, you shouldn't be proposing something that your committee don't already know.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that was a little different.
Dang,
some people, like when my friend, she was in engineering, electrical engineering, and they didn't do their prelims until like your last year, and you do all the stuff, and you don't actually have a committee until your last year. So you're basically proposing what you've kind of already did. So like you've already spent the first 4 years doing stuff without any like set committee, and you don't develop your committee into your last year. I don't know. It seemed backwards to me, but
yeah.
I guess
yeah, honestly, that's I learned that my 1st year, that it's just like there are a lot of boxes that you have to check on your way to getting your degree. So the more that you're thinking about it, and the more that you're just like making sure you know what you have to do moving forward, it really helps you a lot. Like, especially me, like I already knew all of the classes I had to take moving in from like undergrad to grad, but then a lot of people came here still looking at their schedule, and that just kind of like, it really pushes you to be prepared, as long as yeah.
Because you're for sure on your own from that transition, because like you're not staying on campus no more. You're not, you on your own.
Oh, y'all stayed on campus your entire undergrad?
I was an RA for 3 years. So my freshman year, and then I was an RA for 3 years. So, free room and board.
Yeah, that's why you ain't got that many student loans. Hey,
he went the money.
I wasn't about to be no mammy to kids my age.
It was interesting, because I didn't really do any work. Like I told them, listen, I told them at the beginning, I was like, look, man, it's your freshman year. You're supposed to get into some trouble. You're supposed to, experience life. You're away from home, do your thing. But don't make me do my job. Like that's I plead you, do not make me do my job. I don't want to do this paperwork. I don't want to write you up. I don't want any of this shit. Like let's be respectful to where our hall where we live. Let's be respectful of that, and let's have a good time. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you cool with me? I'm cool with you. Shoot, we all do our thing. I'm gonna have some events for y'all. Like, listen, if you want to smoke, we got weed heads down in Holcomb Gardens. Go ahead and do that thing. Just not in the building, like, because it's gonna stink shit up. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna be able to get rid of the smell. 2, if you want to drink, like, don't do it in the resident hall. Like, those frats are giving out free alcohol. Go get you your free alcohol. And a caveat, like, don't be freaked out if you come back drunk, because guess what? You can be drunk in the resident hall. You just can't drink in the resident hall. All right. Like, I'm giving them.
Yeah,
hey, listen. And guess what, man? It was smooth sailing for 3 years for the most part. The only trouble I had was with my boss, like, cause she hated the fact that the kids listened to me more than they listened to her. Like, they respected the shit out of me. They didn't respect her at all. It was bad. It was bad. But shit. It was
See, my freshman year, I lived across the hall from the RA. And he got on my goddamn nerves, where I was like, I'm moving out of this dorm and getting an apartment.
Damn.
Because it was like every little nitpicky type shit.
I hated those. Oh my gosh, I hated those.
And I wasn't really doing nothing, but my TV too loud. Are you freaking serious?
I'm watching TV. What else? It's not that serious. Yeah.
Loud. Yeah. No, I ain't even gonna go there. But yeah, that shit. I was like, man, I might have been the loudest person on the floor. Shit. Like, what you mean? But yeah, nah, that was crazy. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like you had a smooth transition from, especially moving across the country. That's real smooth.
Yeah, compared to what I hear a lot of other people going through, relatively smooth.
That's dope. That's dope. Well, what about you, Samnika? What was your transition from undergrad to grad school like?
Well, I mean, so there was the transition from undergrad to my master's program, which
Yeah.
wasn't too much of a transition because I went to the same, I wasn't like, I went to two different schools, but in the same city.
Oh,
So I didn't have to move anywhere. So I was living in Chicago when I did finish my undergrad. And so instead of me going to the north side to Northeastern Illinois, I went to the south side to Chicago State. Um, I mean, I still worked full time while I did that. The only so there wasn't too big of a like a stark transition. I told y'all I was saying about the evolution genetics class that I had to take, but I'm definitely the type of like where see what classes I got to take, see what my goal is, graduate in 2 years, get my program like figure that out. So it was just like master's, real easy. Got got all A's, finished my project, got out of there. But then I guess if we think about from my master's to my PhD, so that's where I actually had to end up moving. So I actually took a whole year. Well, I didn't voluntarily take a whole year off between my master's and my PhD because I didn't get it. I was trying to stay in Chicago. So I only applied to PhD programs in Chicago. So I applied at the University of Illinois, Chicago, Northwestern University, and University of Chicago. Didn't get into any of them. I only got an interview at Northwestern, and then I think they had interviewed like 9 of us and they only had like 2 spots. So I didn't get into that. And now if I went there, I would have worked on like the same plant that I had did for my master's degree. So I ended up applying to schools, like 1 in each state from PhD for the second year. So that 1 year transition was just me working. I was working towards a GIS minor. So I was only 1 course away from getting this certificate, as only because the person who was teaching that class, I was supposed to teach it over that summer. They ended up leaving. So then it was supposed to be in the fall, but I had already went to go do my PhD. So like the transition from between my master's, so because if you have a master's degree, you can adjunct at a community college. So I did teach environmental biology at a community college and then did the GIS courses just to learn spatial stuff. So I did have to move to Champaign, which was about an hour and a half from Chicago South. That first year was a little weird because, you move somewhere, you don't know nobody. It was even a little bit weird. Like when I interviewed at Illinois, like the interview was really weird and awkward. Like the program didn't know what lab I wanted to be in. So I ended up not being a part, like the interview activities, not actually being a part of the lab. Like, cause usually the lab that you want to be in, they usually host you. So I didn't meet anybody that was in that lab. I only met 1 person. But none of the other like 4 or 5 people. So when I got there, they know somebody's coming, but they don't know who it is. And then guess who it is? This Black girl. So there was this like, there was a little awkwardness at the beginning because and one thing I kind of found out was like when we would do the other, it was really interesting. Like when we would have interviews of other students and the way people would like, they would like Google stalk them and try to find out more information about them. And then like just having like whether or not they would think they would be a good fit for the lab. And honestly, in my head, I was like, it doesn't matter if Jim wants them. I'm not about to sit up here and try to figure out what do my opinions account for if somebody's should come to this lab. So I think some of them kind of felt some kind of way because they didn't have any choice in me. Well, they didn't have any perceived choice in me coming into the lab. Even though I feel like they never really have a choice, like grad students don't really have a choice, but they couldn't give Jim their opinions of me or anything. Because like every year Jim would ask us like what are our opinions of the students, whether he took it into account or not. But sometimes people want that perceived, oh, I gave my opinion, but not with this girl that just totally. And then I didn't have like a defined project of like what system I was going to work in. So because I'm like computational and modeling, there was like 3 systems that I can choose. So and everybody, like other people in the lab kind of worked in those systems. So as I'm trying to ask people more about the project, people acting like really, oh, this is mine, I don't want to give you no information type shit. Yeah. So eventually things started to just get a little bit more, I guess a little bit more accepting. I also had the incident with my program director where less than 2 like a month into the program. We had to do, so everybody that's in orientation, like first year students, there's like an orientation class and they build it around applying for the NSF GRFP, but which I couldn't apply to because I already had a master's degree. So I was applying for the Ford Foundation, and based on, so the first thing that we're supposed to do is write this outline. So outline of your application. So I wrote an outline, and and they said, if you're not applying for the NSF grant, if you're applying for a different grad, staple the solicitation for the grant that you're writing. Well, she didn't pay attention to that, and she thought I couldn't follow basic directions. So she decided to email my professor expressing concerns about my progress in the program based on an outline, and like assumed that I waited until the last minute to do it. And like she put all this stuff in the email, which I've actually seen the email now because I actually ended up filing a complaint against her. But like all these assumptions is like, who, you don't even know me from, someone else, and you're making these assumptions. Is it because I'm one of the two first Black students in this program? Because me and this other girl, we were the only Black girls in the program, and I was actually the first one to graduate. So just, that's racist type bullshit. You would think that, these quote unquote blue towns where they're really like, they say, oh, we're not racist, but they have these low key, oh, you talk really nice, or you sound so articulate, or these things are like, how did you, overcome your obstacles? But eventually I did end up finding my community and figuring out my space. But I would say the transition was it was definitely some growth of me trying to figure out where I belong.
Mm-hmm. Growth, transitions, evolution.
That's why I was using those words because that's what we're talking about. So I intentionally.
I'm gonna get my point across.
Yeah, I was like, that was me intentionally using that trying to tie that back in.
Yeah, put all the evolution back in. We evolve.
No, not the evolution, just growth and transitions. I never said anything about evolving.
Yeah, he said evolution.
I know, it's like not evolution.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
How many evolution classes have you taken? I've taken 3.
0, but I understand evolution.
Actually, I've taken 4.
All right. I am now only on Dr. 70 because
damn.
He said 0. We explain this to our students what evolution means, and this is something that I have to correct undergrads when I teach ecosystem management. What evolution is and what it is not. Like the giraffe's head. It's not because they like stretch. It's not. That's not evolution. It's over time. Evolution evolves across like a larger time scale.
I get that.
Not the 1 year grad school.
So we're not saying that evolution can't be fast forward. For evolution to occur, I have to pass those traits genetically to my kids. Okay. So what about fruit flies?
They have a shorter life cycle. So yes, they can evolve over a time scale of months or years. Yeah. But humans can't evolve over a time scale of years.
Okay.
Because of our gestation period and the time it takes it takes time.
All right. And that's your
so
evolution.
Maybe you're talking about fitness. Maybe we can use fitness.
That word has 2 meanings to me.
So maybe we can talk about fitness.
Fitness. Okay. All right. That's cool. There's your evolution talk for the day.
All right, now you go ahead and give your transition from undergrad to grad school.
Mine's was interesting. Mine, it was a lot of turmoil. It was traumatic. It was everything in between. It wasn't smooth by any means. So like, I wasn't the best student in school. Like I had a B average in undergrad. And
damn. Okay, I'm sorry. That's better than me.
I had a B average, and like I was trying to, and I had like 3 years of research under my belt, and I came from like the best school in the Midwest.
And you wasn't the best You wasn't one of the best undergrads?
By no means.
You had 3 years of research under your belt. I mean, I can kind of see what you say with the B average, but honestly, that's
Nobody cared about that.
Well, okay, so people didn't care, but I'm like, dude, you better than me.
People didn't care about it, especially when I went into
didn't care because of your skin color.
I was applying to different schools, like PhD programs. I was trying to do PhD programs, and I mean, looking back on it, I guess I shouldn't have been, because of my GPA. So like, yeah, it was crazy because
above a 3.0.
Huh?
Because it was above it. Okay. We were
okay. It was a 3.0. It was a 3.0.
Yeah,
it wasn't above it. But
see, this is bullshit because if you were a white student, they would have easily accept you into a PhD program.
A lot of them was like, oh, we have so many candidates who have 4.0, so we're going to go with them. And that was their only measuring stick.
Like that's a lie. I feel like I've heard that so many times, but
that's bullshit. That's bullshit because just thinking about, and then even if they did, just thinking about the students that I worked, like my peers that had 4.0s or had high GPAs, they struggled the most because they don't know how to deal with failure.
Oh God, no.
Not happening. And things not like research isn't like, it's one thing to take a class and get an A in it. It's another to do research and like have these setbacks and things like that. And if you don't know how to deal with that,
exactly.
Then they get chances.
Yeah. But yeah, it was pretty messed up. So I didn't know where I was going by the time I graduated. Graduated, it's the summertime. I had no clue what the fuck was going to happen. I was thinking I was going to just like, you know what, I'm just going to go work. I'm just going to go into industry. Like they're offering really good jobs to people from my school and, really good benefits. And I talked to my mother and she was just like, nah, you're going to find you a grad school. Because you're not going to want to go back. And I was just like, all right, well, keep on trying. And so
shout out to the schools, they got rolling admissions. That's how I got in my master's program. I didn't apply to my master's program until like May.
Yeah. And so I think I applied in like June. And my orgo professor, he was a really cool dude. He was like, you should there's a school down at Georgia State, you should try it out. And like they're up and coming, university and research and science and all that. You should, go ahead and try them out and apply to them. So I applied to them, but then because of my GPA, they put me on probation. I was a master's, I came in as a master's student and they put me on probation for academic probation.
For having a B average.
Yeah. And so, I only had and then that summer I was at my university, at my undergrad, and I was finishing up my undergraduate research for the most part. And then like a month later, I had to pack up all my shit and drive down to Atlanta. Like I couldn't, there was no shipping my stuff. I hitched U-Haul to my car to Judy and put everything in there. Hey, Judy is.
Every time you say Judy, in my head finished it with the big booty, so that's why I started laughing.
Did you?
So literally,
yeah, that's who she is. So
and you added an extra one to her too.
So but so yeah, it was a 10-hour drive with the U-Haul from my hometown in Indiana down to Atlanta. And yeah, man, and I did that trip by myself. Nobody came with me. It was the furthest I've been away, like living from home. And my first apartment, all that stuff. It was pretty traumatic because my apartment was shit. It sucked because I had to look at it online and I couldn't go down there to check it out. And it was terrible. It was roach infested. It was ant infested. It was pretty bad. Walls within. I lived in the hood. It was bad. But and then going to, you know, the university, like the classes were, I'm gonna say the classes were easy for the most part, because you know, like I had a really tough curriculum at my undergrad, so my undergrad kind of prepared me for grad school, you know, and that transition was a little bit more easier, and it was easier to make friends. I didn't know anybody down there. Also, at the same time, I had to get like 3 different jobs to actually keep myself afloat because they paid master students 5,600 a year. So yeah, like they paid me 5,600 a year. They barely, like my rent. And this is why my apartment was shit, was because my rent was like 480 a month, $480 a month. So like you know, you get what you pay for, and like my stipend didn't even cover my rent. So it was, you know, I still had to work. So it was a transition to just being self-sufficient. I mean, I was beforehand, but like this is a whole nother level of self-sufficiency, right? Because you know, I was an RA for 3 years, so you know, my meals were provided for me. Like I didn't have to pay bills. Like none of that shit, you know, I didn't have to deal with any of that. I didn't take
Welcome
out
to
any.
adulthood.
I know, right? Yeah, grad school. Welcome to adulthood. And so that, I mean, good thing I was good with money because that transition was tough, but it wasn't like I mean, yeah, there was some nights that I couldn't eat, but you know that's just kind of like I needed to keep a roof over my head. That you know you have to, you know, you have to figure out which one is more important, right? So it was, and then making friends was a little easier because I was out and about. I was doing stuff. So like when I was working my security jobs, it was easy to make friends because you know I had other people who were around my age, you know, that I talked to, you know. So it was easier to make friends. And then like when you're a grad school and you have like this cohort of people, and you know the first person I met, really cool dude. So it was cool. It was cool making friends. The research transition, I was, the first lab I was in was more heavily organic chemistry, like it was medicinal chemistry, and it was my issue with medicinal chemistry is you can definitely manipulate too much of the research. Like like there was this product that was made that for some reason only one person knew how to do, and only one person got it to work, and nobody else could do the protocol. Yeah, I had issues with that out, and I tried to like change up the protocol, and I was like, hey, they was like, no, 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 you can't change up the protocol. This is the way it works. But how long has it been since it's worked? A couple years. I was like, yeah, 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 a couple
Is that
years.
But if
That's
they say that it's the only one, that's the only way it works. But if it ain't working for nobody else, right?
right. I was just like, yo, something's up. So I had to switch it to a different lab. So, but you know, and shit, like what what you were saying earlier, people with straight A's, like they really don't, not they as a whole they don't do well, but a lot of them don't do well in a laboratory setting. So I knew where I went, I was going to be successful because you know it's fine. I can critically think. I can do these things. Like I'm not freaking out about failing because it's a part of the process, right? Um, so yeah, I was a master's student there. We, if you follow scientists who live, you know my story. Just I got it. I actually switched into the PhD program, which I didn't know you could do when I was applying. So you can go from master's to PhD. You can switch into the program. So I did. A lot of racist shit happened. Left the university with my master's degree, but then thank goodness for rolling admissions universities again. I got into I had to leave the university because I got blackballed. So and it's funny because I was thinking, I was like, oh man, because I moved into this townhome. It was pretty nice. It was gated. I was like, ooh, we out here. I got a townhome. I had a backyard, bro. Like it was crazy, and it was like 5 minutes south of Atlanta. And I was like, bro, I'm out here. Like we about to be woo. Anyways. It's a hot Atlanta, hot boy summer, you know? But and so I had to pack all my shit again, like in like a 2 week span, and leave Atlanta and move back home for a month before transitioning over to DC, which, you know, I definitely wasn't living in DC. I was living in Maryland. But you transition over to DC to go to Howard. So it was, and that transition was a little different because it's like, oh, this is mostly Black people, but they weren't. It's crazy because they weren't as welcoming because you know you I don't know why, but they weren't. It's like a crabs in a barrel mentality. It was like, I'm not gunning for your job, bro. Trust me, I don't want to be here. Like if I had the choice, I don't want to be here. So that transition was it was cool because I knew at least one or two people there, and from undergrad, which was nice. So I had a foundation over there, and so the transition wasn't too bad, especially moving my life from Atlanta to Indiana to DC. So, um, so yeah, but the classes were easy, even though like one of them they tried to like one of the professors tried to make it like hard. Like classes were easy. Research wasn't too tough. I think for me, transitioning is dealing with the people. The people is the hardest thing to deal with because you don't know who you're going to come across. Like the science is the science, the classes is the classes. Like you're not gonna like depending on who's teaching, you're not gonna change that too much. But the people really, it's like, oh fuck, like it can really make or break this whole thing or this or grad school, this transition that you're going through. So that was basically my transition, just moving all over the place and dealing with people, it's a good time. It was a good time.
I agree. It's definitely about the people. That's like that what made that's usually what that can make or break your transition. Like I was cool when I moved from undergrad to my master's because I was like I was still in Chicago, but I was still like the just the way the program is. A lot of the professors, even though most of the professors they were either white or of they were like African immigrants, but the majority of the population of students that they deal with were Black students, so they understood like the struggle, quote unquote. Whereas when I went to University of Illinois, they never dealt with Black people. They just go by whatever stereotypes that they tend to see, so they have these certain perceptions and then thinking that you don't belong there. And then even the students have probably never, they might have had that one Black kid in their class, but that they just never talked to. So then to have, especially when you're supposed to have like, as a grad school, they make the cohorts, like you have like, they kind of want this sense of community and like where people are hanging together, but then you have this one Black student in there and then they're like, to them, that's weird because it's like someone encroaching on their space and they have to figure out how to get used to it, but then also still not pacify, but like they don't want to be like they have to reconcile that they do have some bias tendencies that they never thought that they had. But of course, you don't know that you're biased if you never interact with Black people. But when you have to interact with Black people, then you're like, oh shit, I actually feel some type of way about this person for whatever reason, and having to deal with that.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. I mean, like, and so to round this section off, like to prepare yourself for the transition from undergrad to grad school, or from one program to another program within grad school, right? You have to mentally prepare yourself for one, being in an unknown place where you don't know anybody, and if you're an introvert, like it's gonna be a little tough because you have to you got to interact with people. It sucks, and that like we were saying, like people are make or break this whole transition, right? So you have to interact with people, and that's what it's about. Um, and the classes aren't going to be the classes are the classes. Like you're gonna good professors, bad professors. The material is the material. If you're going into something completely different from your major, which you had in undergrad, just prepare yourself for, just get some base knowledge down, and then what else? What else do I got? And then research. Just go in with an open mind. Some, different labs have different environments. Their environments are different. Their community is different. Just go in there with an open mind. Try to, see where you fit in, but don't try to assimilate to the lab. I mean, be you. I mean, honestly, like if they don't want you for you, then you're not gonna have a
Welcome.
great time. Fuck 'em. Fuck 'em. Yeah, all right, shit. We went. All right, cool. Yeah, you don't want to be there. You don't want to be there. Like we said in a a few episodes ago. Shoot, does that environment serve you? If the environment doesn't, then you don't need to be in there because it's gonna really mess with your mental health, big time, big time. But do either one of y'all have anything to say about the transition from undergrad to grad school? Any tips that you might have for the peoples out there?
Ain't nothing wrong with a job. One thing when Dominique was talking about job thing, I did have I worked full time while I did my master's because the second year of my master's, they did have a research assistantship thing, and it was $5,600 plus tuition waiver. But yeah, who can live in Chicago on $5,600? No one. So luckily I was a nurse assistant since the sophomore year of undergrad. So like I had like a full-time job while I worked. And then I still had that certification when I did my PhD program, because there were 2 times where I needed money in my PhD program where I got a job, worked for like 6 to 7 months, night shift, nobody know nothing because nobody need to know that I got another job. But it's always interesting working at like one of these jobs and people are like, oh, so you're going to school? And they're like, yeah. Because I mean, did you have that, Dominique, when you're a security and then people are like, you're going to school? And they were like, yeah, what are you going to school for? And you
All
be
the
like,
time.
oh, I'm working on my PhD. And they're like, what?
Ugh,
PhD?
doing here, bro.
People literally, people will call me Dr. CNA. Like they would be like, I'm overqualified to be a nurse assistant. Like, because they'll be like, you have a better education than the nurses who are your bosses. And I was like, I don't care about that. I'm here just to make my $11 an hour.
Here to get this money.
Get this money and then I go home, because I was like, this ain't got nothing to do with it. People are like, why are you here? Because I need more money, because being a graduate student don't pay shit.
Don't pay a damn thing.
Oh, another thing, I guess, and this might just be for some of us that another thing, which is also kind of a reason that I needed money. So your family don't really understand that you're not making as much money as a grad student. They'd be like, oh, you already have a degree or a couple of degrees. And then when you want to, especially if you have a helpful personality and you want to send them money back home, or you sending them. So not only do you got to take care of yourself, you're sending money home. I guess you kind of shaking your head, but you probably
I don't
didn't
have
do
that
it.
helpful personality. No, I do not.
Okay, I did. I had to learn to
I'm with
set
you. I'm with
boundaries.
you.
So a little bit of me like working, and it was like, oh, somebody needs a bill paid and I'll pay that. Then I'll go without. Never went hungry, never went out with food. But like I would like not pay some things. I did have sometimes where like, didn't pay my so my university. So I actually stayed on grad student housing. So like luckily like my rent went into like the rent went into the like student account. So there were a couple of times where I couldn't register for classes on time because I hadn't paid my rent, because I probably sent $200 or $300 back home, and then I would just be late registering for classes because I have to like whatever. But I would just say like make sure you take care of yourself first, like getting that degree, and even after you get the degree, you still need to I don't know, everybody make their own choices, and you can't be responsible for other people's decisions. So
Facts.
it took a while to learn that.
Facts. Major facts. Major facts.
Especially if you grew up in the same household.
Mm.
So.
True. What about you, Kojo? Anything to say?
No, honestly, my transition.
Yeah,
So smooth.
He had a
Comparatively,
smooth transition.
Chilling.
My transition was smooth. I think getting into it, I'm now seeing more along the lines of the things you guys are actually talking about. Like, I mean, the racist things from my department, like that turmoil of being like the only Black student there. It didn't really faze me when I was just coming in, because I'm like, I'm new here. I gotta be new anyway, and I'm gonna be the outsider for a long time anyway. But now I'm sitting here like, looking at the school for the things that they're actually doing, I'm like, okay, I see now these things, this and this.
Yeah, sometimes it does take a second for you to be like, are they doing this because I'm new, or is it something else?
Yeah.
So when you get there new, you're like, oh, it's just because they don't know me. And then you realize, oh, they're not even trying to get to know me.
Right, they don't want to know you.
Yeah, this is year 2.5. Y'all should know my name by now.
Right.
Yeah. Are they confusing with you with anybody else? Or is there no one else to confuse you with?
Oh God, no, there's nobody else to confuse me with.
Okay.
But I almost, but they do. If there was anybody else to confuse me with, they would. There's two females. There's two women in my cohort, and I almost needed to call out my professor for like intermixing their names almost every day.
Oh my God. It's ridiculous.
He's like, this girl. I mean, you.
And I don't understand how they switch this up, because it was like me when I started my program. I had my natural hair, so I had an afro, and there's another girl. She had long locks, and like they would mix us up, and I'm like, we don't look remotely the same. And then there was so there was actually there was actually 5 Black women across 4 departments. One was like short. She wore weaves, so she had like long straight hair. I had an afro. One had locks. Another one was half Hispanic, so her hair was like longer but like looser curls. And then another one was short, and she had like a little short afro. How many times they mixed us up? It makes no sense. Some of us wore glasses. Some of us was lighter than the other ones. Some of us was bigger than the other ones, taller, and they still just be like, just call me Tolu or Lanisha or Lynette. And I'm just like, this don't make no sense.
No damn sense. That's a shame.
So I guess that be aware that you are going to be an outsider, but you don't need to. You don't need to feel like an outsider for your entire PhD program. So eventually, you should feel like you are part of the community in some way.
Yeah, and find your group, man. Find your group of people.
Mm-hmm.
That's big, like, because we are people who, even though I'm the biggest introvert, but it doesn't mean that I don't like to have like 1 or 2 good people around me. So find your group, no matter how small. Find your group of people, because that's what's going to help you get through all the bullshit of grad school and that transition. That transition of, and then if you find someone who's in the program who's going through the same shit as you are, like, even better, because you guys can really rebel in the struggle, because it's gonna be
your
a
best
little
friend from grad school, and then one day you'll be a godmom to their kid.
There you go. It works out that way sometimes. It works out, but yeah, I mean, so now grad school is over. We can transition into for me a postdoc, because some of us can't go from just grad school
I was
to being a professor
for like 2 months.
See, now she's just rubbing it in my face. Okay, thanks, appreciate that.
But it was a pity job. I got the job for pity because I didn't get no other jobs.
I don't believe that 1 second, but okay.
What? Same institution? Those are, when you stay at the same institution to get a postdoc, it's because you don't have, and you take it just because you don't have no other offers. And then the moment you take that job, all of a sudden people want to call you.
They don't want me when no one's there. They don't want you.
Now I'm hot.
They all but no, yeah. So I want to talk about my transition from grad school to a postdoc, and again, I had to move across the country from Maryland to Austin, Texas, and I made a pit stop in Indiana before making the drive down south, but it was and then all during the pandemic, so made it even. It's like it's like a zombie movie. Like, oh shit, like I'm driving on this road and I don't know where I can stop, to not get infected. But anyways, But so
Uh,
so honestly, this is in my mindset. Like when you're transitioning or going into a postdoc. So I had many offers, or I had
That's the
just
person talking about rubbing it in.
you're a professor. Don't it all worked out.
You
So
had many offers.
well, that's the thing though. Like so, I approached my postdoc differently than I approached grad school, because where I should have approached it the same way. So I actually was reaching out to professors and different professors at different schools, saying, "Hey, these are my credentials. This is my resume. Like, I would love to be a postdoc in your lab. Blah 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 blah." It's like, I just want to talk to you about your research. I talked to a lot of schools about or a lot of labs about their research, and there was only two that really uh, um, stuck out to me, because you had the phone conversation first, and then you have like another, it's either another phone conversation or a Skype conversation, and then because at the time Zoom wasn't that big, and then you have and then they bring you in to see, just give a talk, and then see if you'd be a good fit for the lab, pretty much. And so that was that was my whole uh thing at the beginning of 2020. So um it was nice because it wasn't as stressful as getting into grad school, because like I had options this time around. Like, there was actually, I had options. And when it came to choosing where I wanted to transition to, I had to keep in mind cost of living, what I was going to be paid, and then that visit was so important, right? Because I had to understand, I had to look at the lab that I was going to be in, and could I fit into this lab environment, right? So that you can control, like in this case, I could control some of the things in my transition. I can control the place that I'm going, that I know that I'm going to like, there's some things that are out of your control, there's some things that you don't know, there's unknowns, right? But I knew that I could be like, okay, well, I can stake my claim into this lab and be good either way, you know. So and that's what I did. Because and then when I was having these in-person interviews, like, I made sure to throw in, like, because I'm just me, like, I talk about racial stuff all the time. So I threw in, like, yeah, I'm into history, which I am. I love history, I love learning about history. And my current boss asked me, "Oh, what's your favorite time period?" And I was like, "Oh, Reconstruction." And so, if no one knows what Reconstruction is that time period when when the slaves were fully freed from Texas, and then that day from June 19th. Oh, I don't know the year, but until Jim Crow. Like, Jim Crow was always a thing, but it wasn't enforced until years later, right? So during this time period, there was black people could flourish, and that's where Black Wall Street came around. There's fully black towns that they were self-sufficient, didn't need anybody else, didn't need any help from white people at all, right? So we had these towns, we had these cities, we were flourishing, we were wealthy, but white people didn't like that, obviously, and they burned it all to the ground. So that I told him that, and he was like, "Oh," like he didn't, like, his shock wasn't that that was my favorite time period. His shock was, like, he didn't know anything about it. And then he goes on to ask, "Oh, well, what is there any reading material that I can um that you know of, that I can use, that I can understand and learn about this time period more?" And I was like, "Oh, okay," because honestly, I've told that to people before, and they just kind of they was just like, "Oh, okay," and moved on to the next thing. But he wanted to learn. And I was just like, "I think we got something here. I think I can deal with this, right?" So just and then now, so having to move there, especially during the pandemic, it was a little tough. So, I had to pack up all my shit again, move back to Indiana, um, unload my shit for like a month, pack up all my shit again, and then move down to Texas, which was an 18-hour road trip from Indiana to Texas. So that was fun. That was a good time. Um, so it was the same thing, but now you don't have no classes. It's just research. Now you're just being judged off your research now. Yeah, this is your research based. So you have to make sure that you have a strong foundation. So I suggest when going into a lab, going to the lab, doing something, or knowing that you have to do something that the lab needs, or you have this certain skill, or the certain skill set, and so you go into the lab and you build, or you start to get or generate results from that one skill set that and then you start to learn other skill sets, right? And that's kind of how you want to do the postdoc, or at least that's how I'm doing the postdoc. I generate results from what I know, what I'm good at, what I know I can do, and then now we got that basis, we got this groundwork, and now we can build off of that. So the transition wasn't hard. The transition wasn't they and the people in my lab made it pretty easy to transition into their lab, and that's kind of what you want. And that's how you get a feel for other people, and when choosing a lab, you want to get a feel for that. Now, when it comes to like meeting people, obviously it was during a pandemic. It was kind of hard. Like I'm pretty much staying in my house for the most part. I knew like one person down here, and that's about it. So, what can you do? So, as things are opening up, I'm hoping, because I'm not even a year in yet. So as things are opening up, I'm hoping I can, meet more people, get that, that solid friend group to help the time pass. But until then, I'm just going to be traveling, going to places. You know what I'm saying? I'm just going to be traveling a little bit. So, but yeah, so the transition wasn't for me wasn't too hard, but I do suggest, uh, since you are in this place of uh, you kind of have the power to choose where you want to go. And I feel, and then I'm in a lab where they knew nothing about microscopy. Like, I'm a microscopist. Like, that's kind of how that's my bread and butter. So like, and they knew nothing about it. So I come in with a skill that they aren't familiar with, but it's a skill that they needed. So don't be afraid to go into a lab that you are the only person with that skill set, because that makes you a commodity to that lab. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh shit, like he can do these things that we have no clue of how to do. So now you become a commodity. Now that you become a intrinsic part of this lab, and it makes things so much easier. Makes things so much easier, just in my experience. So yeah, but with now, Samnika, since you went from to a 2 month postdoc to a
Mhm.
to a to a professor job, tenure track out here, making that good money. Um, what was that transition like?
So I have a question with you. When you were
So,
applying for postdocs, did you okay? Because you said you were just like reaching out, so you didn't like apply to places that like you weren't like looking for job ads. You were just reaching out to people and
yeah,
seeing if
no,
they
no,
had
there
any
wasn't there
positions.
wasn't any job ads. There wasn't any like uh applications or anything like that. Like, I wasn't
Okay.
like looking for jobs. I was just looking for people who had open postdoc positions, because so people in their funding, as you know, like they have money for postdocs. So I was looking for
Yeah.
people who had the funding for one.
Just like on
Right.
the
But
research
I guess
websites,
usually
or
they
oh,
usually
cool.
advertise those though. Well, at least from what. So I guess you weren't going based off like where you're looking for people with like advertised. I don't know where they advertised or no.
Oh no, like the places that
Okay.
yeah, I wasn't looking for advertisements at all. I was actually just One, I started to look at papers that that I reference and see if, like, okay, are any of these labs offering any postdocs, or are they doing any research that I would want to do, and just went from there. But then I started to look at, okay, where do I want to live, what schools are around there, check out it was a long process. I went a backwards kind of process, and I was like, okay, would I want to live there? What schools are in that area? All right, so let me see the departments, and then pretty much went through each professor to see what their research was, and to see if I really wanted to do the research that they're doing. So that, yeah, I went through a very long process. I didn't even look at ads.
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense to when you're like something that you should have did for grad school, because that's what I did for grad school. For when I was looking for jobs after my PhD, like I literally only applied to jobs where there was a posted position for something. And I remember there was something on Twitter about people saying like networking, like you have to network and stuff, and that's how you can get jobs and blah blah blah. And I literally, on the thing, I was like, you know what, I want to get a job basically solely on my credentials, not because I know someone who knows there's some money. I feel like that's one of the ways that there's this inherent bias of certain people getting jobs, because if you have postdoc money but you never actually post a job app, like application for this postdoc, then it doesn't open the opportunity for all. And that's one of the reasons why we have such a lack of Black and brown scholars, because people get postdocs because they know someone whose grad students needs the job, which I mean, nothing. And I'm like, obviously it worked for you, but I just feel like for me, like I was like, I'm only applying for, I'm not going to ask someone like, oh, do you happen to have a money that you could whatever. Now, if I was going to apply for like the NSF postdoc thing where I'm bringing in the money, then I get the choice to go. But so that's probably also the reason why I just didn't, yes, I have. So, there's two ways to think about this. And there's like this EEB, there's like a every year there's a spreadsheet of like jobs opening in that, where people who apply, like they have like this commentary of like, they'd be like, so you can like kind of like know how many people apply, and if people hear something back, and you can know like, oh, they did Skype calls or Zoom calls, or they invited people for interviews. So it's like for the locations. So when I read that, sometimes there's like a venting session where people vent like, yeah, they have tenure check jobs, or even on Twitter, and they're like, well, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And the people who are searching for these jobs would be like, you have this job that everybody wants, and you're like, oh, it's so hard. Well, if it's so hard, why don't you just quit your job and give it to someone else? Even though it doesn't necessarily work that way. But so you're like, you had choices. And usually as a professor, you don't really have choices, because you get a job offer. Like, so I actually got a job offer at Nebraska, but it was like in a small town for like a college that had like a small master's program, but it's primarily undergrad. And they literally gave me 3 days to make this decision. And when they gave me the time that, so they offered me, it was a tenure track job in biology, but I was going to interview at Missouri the following week. And I'm like, I really can't make this decision in this amount of time. And then when, so that they gave me an extension where they're like, okay, you need to let us know after you interview. But then after I interviewed there, I don't even know if I have that job. So how could you possibly make the decision? So this is the way these jobs kind of work. So I ended up actually turning down the Nebraska job after I interviewed in Missouri, because I just felt really good about Missouri. And the thing about Missouri, that it was a postdoc. So it was like a postdoc program where like I interviewed, but they still needed to submit my, so the school was going to forward my application to the graduate college. And then the graduate college would pick the 8 people that they chose. So there was like maybe like 20 applicants, and they was going to like pick one, like 8 total, and not every department would get one. But I just felt really good about my interview. But so the transition to a professor from either being a grad student or a postdoc. So I was a postdoc for like 2 to 3 months. And it wasn't it wasn't really all it's cracked up to be, mainly because the person who was my thing, her mom ended up dying. So like I started it and then she ended up having to go out of the country. And then I was like this glorified lab tech where I was fixing the previous postdoc position. So I didn't even like when I was actually interviewing, they were like, we talked about projects that I could do with like bringing my skills in. But then when I actually started the position, they're like, okay, well, we want you to work on this and fixing this paper and you could be co-author. So I literally spent the first 2-3 months like going through that. They were making me have like weekly meetings, update meetings, where I didn't even have weekly update meetings with my advisor. Like I felt like I had less freedom as a postdoc than a PhD. And then when they found out that I was interviewing, because I was like, I have this postdoc, but it's a year. When they found out that I was going on this interview, they kind of got upset about it because they're like, "But you just got this job," and I'm like, "But it's a." And then they were like, "Well, you could potentially be here, instead of," because like this person barely knows me and she's trying to like tell me that I could like be a researcher associate and like have that be a long-term job so I don't have to teach, I don't have to do the service aspect, I could just do research. And I was like, you don't even really know me and don't know what my career goals are, and I want to be a professor because I want to teach, I want to do research, I want to do service.
Right.
So I ended up when I ended up taking the job, I actually at Missouri, they pretty much like let me go as the postdoc. So I had like this month and a month hand transition of no job, no money, which kind of sucks over the summer. But so I ended up moving to Missouri. One good thing about as a professor, they usually give you a moving stipend. But unfortunately, with the 45 administration and that 2017 tax law thing, you are now taxed on your moving stipend. So even though they gave me 5% of my salary for the moving stipend, I didn't actually get that max amount of money because I got taxed on it. But my brother ended up helping me move. I ended up I did negotiate to start like a month earlier so I can prep for courses. Mm-hmm. So the first month of me having my job, I literally was Monday through Friday in Missouri, staying in an Airbnb, going to the office, and then on the weekend going back to pack. And then I fully moved in because I couldn't get into my apartment until like August 16th. So which was a few days before semester start. Also had a couple of family issues where my sister wanted her 19-year-old daughter to come live with me with her 2-year-old son. And I said yes, and regretted that decision. Sent her back 3 months later because it was not a good thing. And it's not necessarily it was the niece, it was more so my sister. Like the fact that it's really weird, like they want you to help or whatever, but when they see you actually succeeding, they try to sabotage you. So, and it's like, I'm like, it's like, yeah, you're my older sister, but like, hey, this is my household. You couldn't control your daughter in your household, but yet you think you're going to control her in my household. Like I have certain rules that they're different. You can't, if you have rules in your household that your daughter is not following, but she's going to follow the rules in my household. And you don't tell her that the rules in my household are stupid rules. And they're simple rules like, hey, dishes have to be washed before you go to bed.
There you go.
How hard is that? Clean up after yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't, these are really things, but apparently I'm like a dictator.
You're a tyrant.
I'm a tyrant because I'm forcing her to wash the dishes. And I was like, I don't care how you wash the dishes. You can put them in a dishwasher. You can wash them by hand. You can take them outside and wash them with a water hose. I don't give a fuck. But you're going to wash them. Or it's like you have a day that you have to do laundry where you're going to do your laundry every Wednesday.
Yeah.
Why I got it? No, because you're not going to wait till all your clothes or whatever. Wednesday, you're going to do laundry.
Yeah.
Or me and her son, I was like, we're going to alternate. It was like, I'm going to help you. And then her mom's getting upset that, like one time she was on her phone with her mom and I was going to give my nephew a bath. And she's like, why are you giving a bath? That's her son.
Oh my God.
And show her that I am helping her. We're alternating. And honestly, if I didn't give him a bath, guess what? He probably wouldn't get one. So these stressful things do not do. When you transition to a whole new state where you have more responsibilities, don't take on other shit that you ain't supposed to do. All right. Mm-hmm. So another thing that was that was kind of a tangent, but just thinking about grad school is different. There's a lot of things being a professor that they really don't teach you in grad school. There's so many administrative things that you have to do because guess what? You have a budget. You have like you get a startup. You have to hire people. You have to. There's so much field work, not paperwork to fill out, and just things to manage. You will also be advising students. You're teaching classes, going to service. There's so much stuff. You don't just do research, which I like it, but it's a lot, and it's like they do try to ease the transition a little bit. Like, so I didn't have to advise for the first year, but this year I had to advise students, which is when you're advising undergrads and they're like, what classes should I take? And I'm like, can you not read the catalog? It's spelled out, and I have to literally. You're a senior. You're a senior and you still don't know how to figure out which classes you need.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Or you don't know how to register for classes because the way my school works is the students get, as juniors and seniors, they get a faculty advisor. But their freshman and sophomore year, there's like this main advisor who's like advisor for all the freshmen and sophomore. Apparently there was one of these advisors that would just register all the students for their classes. So I got some students that don't even know how to register for classes because they've never had to register because the other person would just register them for those classes.
Oh shit.
And I'm just like,
well, I'm not going to register.
Why would I register if someone's been doing it for me? Like what?
Well, I'm not.
Oh no, we're gonna be on Zoom, so we're gonna have like okay. You know, Zoom. I'm like, and how you've been at this school more than me? How am I supposed to know how to register for classes? I'm like, figure this shit out. But it's a little bit interesting because like, so I ended up coming in as I was basically a diversity hire, which I don't have an issue with that because money is money. And if that's what they have to do to because they created this position for me. So some of my faculty colleagues feel some type of way because I didn't apparently go through the normal system. But also because I also really didn't have a postdoc because when I interviewed, my CV didn't have the postdoc experience on there. But I interviewed, did an awesome job, talked to the dean. The dean really loved me. He's like, we're not going to bring her in as a postdoc. We're going to bring her in as a tenure track professor. Let's figure out how to make this happen. I'm sorry, I'm not mediocre white dude. And then when I looked at the couple of ones that have issues, I'm looking at their like CV. I'm like, oh, so you had to do like 2 postdocs and I still have more publications than you? Damn. No wonder you feel in some type of way. But it's a huge transition because you're like, you think grad school is adult? You think grad school is adulting? Being a professor is like adulting. Damn. Because you're getting paid more money, but then you have more responsibilities. And the transition can be hard. I can just say anybody, you should get a therapist that like specializes in like work transitions or balance. So like when I was looking for a therapist, so I was looking for a Black woman therapist, and then I chose ones that actually had like experience in like with like work-life balance and like just work transitions and even like making it so like I have no problem saying what I mean or speaking my mind, but I have to learn how to say it in a way. And it's not, I don't compromise my authenticity, but also say it in a way that I'm not going to get myself fired because I still need a paycheck. So things like that. But then just making sure like balancing, in having that work-life balance of like making sure like I don't let work consume me, which some people, I'm like, oh, it's like 40 hours a week job. And people are like, other faculty they're like, I think you need to work more than that. And I was like, no, I don't, because if I need to, I don't want it. That's not, that shouldn't be the reality. If y'all want me to work more than that, y'all need to pay me more money. Because if I work more than that, then I'm basically getting paid like I was a postdoc or a grad student. So
that ain't the move either. That is not the move. No,
but I mean, it's working out fine. I am buying a house. So nice. I've been here for 2 years. So decent house. Yeah. Waiting for I'm at the appraisal stage, but I'm supposed to close in July.
Okay. Finish this thing off. So I wanted to ask you, Kojo. So what are your plans for after grad school? What did you want to do after grad school?
I can't
do you know?
I came in thinking I really was just gonna like go the postdoc and professor route. I still believe I could, depending on how many
You really want
publications.
to.
Yeah, that's the thing. Do I really want to? Like, if I could commit to that program I was talking about earlier, and I could be a professor, a tenure track professor in the Cal State system or even the UC system. But do I want to live in California, or do I want to deal with all of these things of being a professor? Because I never saw myself as a professor as a kid.
Yeah.
So I'm still gauging it at this point, trying to make it evenly between possibly going to a professorship or just jumping into industry.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought I was gonna be delivering babies.
You are a Dr. Samnika. You can deliver a baby if you want, but
right, you can do
No,
you
I
can do
am
it
not
all.
an OBGYN.
You can do it
No.
all. Like we're thoroughly convinced that you can do it all.
but we gonna pay you to do research. You can deliver babies for fun.
Oh, that's what's up. Hey, you
But
know
yeah,
what, man? Yeah.
years down the line, I'll see what happens.
You see what happens. Yeah, I mean that's how it is, man. And you know what? I think with any transition, just be open to whatever comes your way, you know. As you plan, you know, as you're in this transition, as you're planning for a transition, you know, just be ready for things to not fully go your way. You know, you have to adapt to whatever situation that you're in, adapt to, you know, the new environment that you're going into, and you know, you honestly, and just have fun, have a good time. Try some way to enjoy yourself while you're in this transition, while you're transitioning to this new place, to this new environment. Because if you're not having fun, then yeah, what's the point? What's the point of even doing it? You know, like I have, like I tell people all the time, like the lab is my happy place, but you know, I still have fun outside of it. You know, you still have a good time outside of it. So, you know, that's what's big for me. Um, as this has gone pretty long, but you know, we got some good gems, got some good tidbits out there.
About average. We
It's,
usually 2 hours.
Two
maybe.
hours?
I mean,
I mean,
I
so
cut
the
I cut it
episode
down.
never is 2 hours, but we're usually on the Zoom for about
Oh
2
yeah,
hours.
you're right. Yeah, that's true.
Facts. But yeah, so is there any lasting words you want to give out to the people? Any tips, any advice, any tips of the trade? What you guys got for
Just remember, we're not evolving this fast.
them? Just why? Just why?
Because
Just why?
you haven't realized this is our dynamic.
You know what? It's fine. Whatever. It's cool. You believe what you want to believe. I believe what I want to believe.
Okay, no. We're not going to believe this is not
just as much as a scientist.
religion.
No, it's not.
We are basing this on
Well, it's
fact.
not religion because they don't believe in evolution at all.
Right, but you're saying believe like there's no belief in evolution. Evolution is not a religion, so we don't believe in evolution. Evolution happens.
Yeah, yes, evolution happens. I'm not saying
On a
that
longer
it doesn't.
time scale. We can
I'm not
talk
saying
about
that it doesn't.
adaptation, we can talk about fitness, but we're not evolving.
So okay. So we're not saying that adapting isn't a part of evolving. Are you saying
adapting is a part of evolving.
So
So
we're not
individuals
adapting as people?
adapt, populations evolve.
So you don't think populations are evolving? You don't think
they
you
are
don't-
over time, but not over this time. But we're not talking about populations as grad students, like as individuals. We're talking like this is individual transition from undergrad to grad school to postdoc to positions.
You're right. This is just this is our we're getting off topic. It's all good. You know what? Let's finish this out.
He's gonna take out my tip.
No, I'm not.
Maybe.
Coach, you got any lasting words for the people? Anything else? Yo, I ain't got nothing for him.
No, I think I'm good.
I'm good. Hey, you know what, man? Oh my gosh. You know what? To all the people out there, thanks for joining us for the second to last episode of this first season. of At the Bench. Thanks Samnika and Kojo for being a part of the conversation. And thank you guys out there for watching, for listening. Be happy, be healthy, be well. See you guys on the next episode of At the Bench. Peace.